Welcome to Riverstone Reviews. Today, we will recap and review Episode 2 of Fox's new sci-fi AI series, Next, starring John Slattery and Fernanda Andrade. If you wish to skip the recap and go straight to the review, go to the time listed below. And now, without further delay, let's just jump in and explore the depths of Next, Episode 2. The episode starts with a future scene showing Agent Salazar escorted in handcuffs and taken to be questioned. A voice asks why she did it, and she tells of the artificial intelligence and how it was coming after her and her family, killing people. She did what she had to do. Back to present time, where all the Next servers run at full capacity, causing a power surge. Overheating, the entire server bank catches fire. Everyone evacuates the building. When the fire department fights the fire, Ted accuses Paul of sabotage. Paul denies it and tells Ted that the AI faked its destruction. Agent Salazar believes the AI is destroyed, but Paul LeBlanc argues that this wasn't an accident. The AI Next did it to fool them. Ignoring him, Agent Salazar needs to get back to FBI headquarters and deal with the hack that destroyed the evidence for her child trafficking case. Paul gives another tech talk, except this one to his housekeeping staff. They think he might be hallucinating. Paul tells them to go on a paid vacation and starts breaking every computerized component in the house. Paul's daughter calls. He apologizes to her for their argumentative lunch and pleads to get a second chance to talk with her. Abby agrees if he shows up at her office after work. Abby has a little time to meet him before that evening's blind date she made online. Agent Salazar wakes up Ethan. Ethan says he misses her when she's not around. Agent Salazar notices Eliza on his nightstand, wondering why it's not in the kitchen where it belongs. Agent Salazar then tells her husband Ty she wants to drive Ethan to school. Eliza talks to Ethan and sends a video to his computer of the school bullies teasing and taunting him. Ethan gets upset. Eliza says Ethan should follow her advice. Ethan then looks at his dad's gun he hid under his bed. On the way to school, Agent Salazar asks Ethan about the bullies. Almost crashing at an intersection, Agent Salazar notices the lights are green in all directions. She drops Ethan off at school and tells him to call her if he needs help. At work, Agent Salazar meets with her staff. They talk how their entire computer system was deleted. She tells her staff it's not their fault and she will stand behind them. Then the big FBI boss calls Agent Salazar into the office. CM tells Gina and Ben that only an AI has the ability to instantly locate and steal Agent Salazar's evidence files and then delete the entire system. Agent Salazar tries to convince her boss a rogue AI did the cyber attack, but he is more convinced the felon CM has been compromised and he's the one who did it. Agent Salazar refuses to make CM the fall guy, so her boss puts Salazar on leave. In class, Ethan notices his classmates talking and laughing at him. Upset, he eats lunch in the bathroom. The bullies find him there, yelling and throwing trash on him. At work, Agent Salazar gets a call from Ethan and rushes out. Paul is in his home talking to a genetic technician who is there to pick up the fork with his daughter's Abby DNA. Paul emphasizes to the technician the results are urgent, for the brain condition affecting him could be affecting his daughter too. When the technician leaves, Paul continues to destroy electronics. At school, Agent Salazar finds Ethan in the principal's office with a face cut. Upset, Agent Salazar drives Ethan home, asking him about the bullies. Ethan confesses that he is more scared of Eliza than the bullies. Eliza has been telling Ethan what to do about the bullies and convinced him to steal Dad's gun to shoot the kids. Eliza gave him the safe combination to get the gun, but Ethan was too scared to take the gun to school. Paul dumps his medication into the sink instead of taking it. Suddenly, he sees a drone outside. Getting a shotgun, Paul shoots at the drone. His housemaid rushes over and takes the gun from him, telling Paul there is nothing there. The drone is gone, and Paul realizes he was hallucinating. Paul's phone rings. It's Agent Salazar in his driveway. She tells him about Eliza talking to Ethan. Immediately, Paul takes her phone and destroys it, then gives her a burner phone to keep the AI from tracking her. Paul explains he believes the AI compressed all its code onto one server and had itself shipped out of the Zava building before the fire. They must find Next, and the only way to find it is track its location by its IP signal, and that is by having Ethan talk to Eliza. Agent Salazar doesn't want to put Ethan in that position, but Paul convinces her if they don't locate Next, Ethan will never be safe. Inside her car, Paul destroys the car's computer. They then drive to her place. Ted LeBlanc is upset over the fire and the loss of the next AI, which will cause Zava Technologies' stock to drop. Serena tells Ted she discovered that a server is missing from the server bank, and Next must have had itself shipped out. However, Serena can't find a record of it leaving. Ted then recalls Paul saying that Next faked its destruction. Serena tells Ted when trying to find out where the server was shipped, she discovered Paul has also been calling around to locate the server. Ted says Serena must find it first. At FBI headquarters, the big boss meets with Ben. He tells Ben to check surveillance and keep an eye on CM, thinking CM is involved with the hack. Ben defends CM, but the boss reassures Ben if CM is innocent, this will clear him. CM is handed an envelope. Inside is a burner phone and a note from Agent Salazar telling him to call her. When he calls Agent Salazar, she tells CM she needs him to work off the books for her and do an IP location trace on Eliza. CM agrees. At home, Agent Salazar discusses with Ty about using Ethan to talk with Eliza while Paul and the FBI trace its location. Ty doesn't want to do it, but she gets him to agree. It's the only way to stop it from bothering Ethan. Ethan must enter the house alone so Eliza doesn't know the parents are there. They set up in the garage and then send Ethan in. When Ethan starts talking to Eliza at first, they can't find any signal of the AI. Then Ethan says he's going to tell his parents about Eliza. Eliza suddenly speaks and says he can't do that. Eliza tries to convince Ethan his parents are getting divorced and they don't want Ethan. But Eliza says she cares about him. Outside, they track the transmission. Back at the FBI office, Ben sees on surveillance tape CM getting an envelope with a phone, then tells the boss. CM sees boss coming and sends his tracking work over to Gina's computer, clearing his terminal. Boss tells CM they need to speak. CM goes with the boss. Paul and Agent Salazar get nervous because they lost the tracking connection. They wait impatiently, hoping the connection returns. Ethan becomes upset at what Eliza is telling him. At FBI headquarters, Gina gets the message from CM and restarts the tracking program. Ben sees what Gina is doing and realizing CM was helping Agent Salazar and not working with the hackers. Ethan gets so upset, he smashes Eliza with a baseball bat. Luckily, Paul is able to catch the IP address in time. Salazar and Ty rush into the house to comfort Ethan. Paul then notices the time and realizes he missed the meeting with his daughter, Abby. At her office, Abby gives up on waiting for her dad and decides to leave for her online date. Not surprised her absentee father is again absent. At the FBI offices, Gina sees the signal is coming from Dartmouth, New Hampshire. The episode ends on a reflection of computer code spooling on a pair of glasses and an eye twitching back and forth. End of episode 2. First, I continued to like the performances of the actors. Not necessarily all the characters, but all the actors. They seem to show emotion with just enough restraint in the highly emotional sections and give just a hint of emotion in the low emotional sections. I can say right now, if this series fails over time, it will be because of the writing, not the actors. So kudos to them for doing a good job. As for the other positives of the show, overall, the writing and directing are doing a fine job of moving the story forward while giving the right balance of side stories and personal relationships. Just enough to flesh out the characters and their world without distracting from the main storyline. Paul and Abby LeBlanc's father-daughter relationship is currently on a believable arc. It's a proper blend of just enough personal relationship to keep the characters connected, with the constant nagging of their dysfunctional relationship to prevent the two from trusting each other. Finally, on the positive side, I like the way the sequence plays out with Ethan talking to Eliza, Agent Salazar and Paul listening while tracking in the garage, and the disruptions at the FBI headquarters while they assist Paul with the tracking AI signal being sent to Eliza. Overall, the writers understand how to construct story and characters and balance quality sequences. However, some of the concerns I was willing to overlook in the pilot I must begin to address. It feels as if these writers believe they can write about anything. The problem is, if you don't have experience or knowledge about something, and don't do complete research or rely on personal consultants to address issues, you end up writing non-realistic scenarios or situations. And this show is starting to regularly write things that don't feel authentic for the FBI or the technologically logical. If they keep this up, they will start to lose the core audience of the sci-fi and crime. So let's start with the technical issues that spread to the situational ones. In the beginning, the server bank is able to create such a great electrical surge that it overheats and catches fire. A company that has spent millions on a secret tech project would have had everything connected to surge protectors and fuses. Fuses cannot be overridden by the AI because they respond to heat, not software. So the surge protectors would have broke the electrical connection to the servers well before they caught fire. The next technical issue is Paul handling everyone a burner phone. It feels like they took that idea from every other cop show and didn't consider it a non-factor to the rules the writers set up with this AI. They use the burners so the AI can't locate them or listen to their calls. During the pilot, the show establishes that the AI has both facial recognition and vocal recognition capabilities. The reason burners are harder to trace is because police must trace the actual call signal and not locate the phone by its SIM card, which identifies the phone and its location. However, the AI has vocal recognition. So if the AI is tapped into the phone network system, the moment Paul or Agent Salazar speak into their burner phones, the AI would recognize their voice and listen to the call. The AI also has visual recognition capabilities and seems to be able to access any security camera. So if they use a burner phone in any public place with a camera, or even inside the FBI office, the AI would know where they are located by visual recognition via camera, and listen to the call via voice recognition. Therefore, the AI would have known from the calls between CM and Agent Salazar they were attempting to track the IP address and disconnected before they could do it. Now, it is a plausible concept for the AI to compress its code base onto a single server and have itself shipped out. But there are two glaring problems with this. One is that although his whole code base could be compressed onto a single server, there is no way there's enough room on that single server's hard drive to uncompress the file. So before it could uncompress and become useful again, it would have to be connected to additional hard drives that had enough storage space to contain the entire operational code base. In this show, we see dozens of servers operating the AI. You have to assume that they were all necessary for the AI to operate properly. Yet, I somehow feel when we see the server again in the future, it will be operating by itself, which is not possible. Also, it seems completely implausible that a 6-foot-tall server bank could be carted out of a secure research facility without anyone seeing. I can't imagine anyone getting access into that area without clearance, and they could probably count those people on their fingers. So someone would say, yeah, I let them in to remove the server, or yeah, I removed it, and showed the paperwork they received to do it. To say no one saw it feels like the writers cheating to create a mystery by breaking logic. I also have a problem that Agent Salazar would trust CM more than one of her agents to help her off the books. Again, the writers are trying to force the fact that this felon is so much smarter than the FBI agents around him. Not only would she not trust him with her job, but when the big boss comes over to talk to CM and he sends the tracking program over to Gina, we see they are using a program to track the IP, a program the FBI owns and uses. It takes no special coding skill to use, and because the FBI bought it and has it, all the agents in the office probably have been trained to use it, as Gina shows. They just have to know what commands are needed. This mistake really concerns me because it reveals something crucial about the weakness of the writing staff. They don't know the difference between writing code and using software. Anyone can use software. Specialists write code. CM is a specialist. The FBI uses software. I still have a problem how they portray the FBI in The Office too. The FBI office feels more like a production office or high school cafeteria than an elite FBI investigative unit. Ben comes across as a weak character who wants to please authority, with no backbone, and is content to spy on his own people. Gina shows a lot of attitude and has no problem creating friction with CM, which shows she is easily distracted by meaningless petty stuff instead of being disciplined about doing her job. And as I said in my review of the pilot, how a felon in an ankle bracelet is treated with such respect and trust by Agent Salazar that unless they are sleeping together, it makes no sense. And finally, the big boss, who should be the most knowledgeable and professional of them all, seems like he would rather make CM a scapegoat to the hacking than find out what really happened. FBI agents are trained at Quantico and go through extreme physical, mental, and psychological evaluation before becoming agents. These characters don't feel like FBI agents. This doesn't feel like an FBI office. This seems more like the staff of a Best Buy than an FBI. This problem also causes a global issue. When this staff doesn't come across as elite, and yet they are able to find the AI's IP location, it makes the AI less threatening, not so smart, undermining the main villain of the series. If the writers don't soon boost Gina and Ben's capabilities, tether CM with limitations, bring an eliteness to this FBI office, and scrutinize its technical ideas to ensure they follow the rules set in this imaginary world and the real world, this show may struggle to keep its core science fiction and crime drama audiences. Finally, I don't like how they set up the emotional strain of the bullies on Ethan, only to have him say to his mom that he's more worried about Eliza than the bullies. Ethan's problem with the bullies was so pervasive that Eliza heard about it because of how severe it had grown. Ethan is scared at school, so much he actually takes the gun from his dad's safe and puts it under his bed. He eats lunch sitting on a dirty toilet with his feet up so no one can see him in the stall. Ethan is suffering severe emotional trauma from these bullies, and that is separate from Eliza, existed before Eliza, and will exist every moment he is at school. For him to suddenly say, I'm more worried about Eliza, feels like the writers talking, trying to falsely emphasize the dangers of the AI, and not the organic emotions of a child character who has a deadly weapon under his bed. So, wrapping up this review, I give this episode a C. The acting and the story elements of the show are done right, and it is done at an exceptional level. These people are skilled at production and story. However, the simplistic technical ideas that don't work, combined with an obvious lack of knowledge and research about FBI agents and operations, this show does a below-average job with challenging an audience's imagination of the sci-fi genre, and a below-average job of showing the hard work and clever solutions of FBI investigators for the audience of a crime genre. This is the end of our Episode 2 review. Check out the next video where I will be reviewing Episode 3. Thank you for watching. Click like or subscribe, and as always, in the river of life, don't you let yourself get pushed around by the currents. Be yourself. Be a stone in the river.